Hi, I'm Whitney, and today I'm going to be talking about the number of the day math routine. And this is going to be a newer, more equitable version of the traditional number of the day math activity. So this might look a little familiar to you. This is very traditional. This was when you would have your number of the day, and then you would ask kids to write it in word form. You would ask them to, is it odd or even? Write it in expanded form. What's 10 more, 10 less? And the problem with this activity is that for some kids, it's way too easy. I mean, this is just mindless. Like they just going through the motions, writing it down. However, for other kids, this can be extremely challenging and they are not able to be successful with it. So instead of this kind of boring, over and over repetitive routine, the new type of number of the day activity is very open ended. And you start by showing students the number of the day. And this can be any number. I recommend numbers less than 100. And it could be fractions, it could be decimals for some older kids. However, you show the number of the day and you ask students, what do you know about this number? It's very open-ended. And students can share equations, pictures, models, any way that they know how to show this number or anything that they know about this number. And this, you can get students to explain their thinking. So once a student gives an answer, you can extend their thinking by asking, well, how do you know? Or you can ask them, well, why? Why is that so? And then you're going to write down all the answers that students give you, including wrong ones. And writing down wrong answers at first was really hard for me because I just didn't want the students to feel bad, or I just, I didn't want somebody to feel unsuccessful and I wanted to correct it. However, what usually happens if you write down an answer that's incorrect, another student will notice, hey, wait a second, that doesn't equal whatever the number is that you're working on. And then you can say, oh, and then how can we add to this to get it to the right number? And so it becomes almost like a collaborative effort. So it's really cool. And also you want to include student names with their thinking because it shows the students that you value their thinking and that their thinking matters and it's important. So let's try it right now with the number 35. So I want you just to think about, what do you know about the number 35? And it could be anything that you know about this number. So just think about it for a second. And one thing you can also do to extend students' thinking, if you're not getting a lot of math out of it, like if you're just kind of getting some basic things, you can also say, well, what multiplication do you know about this number? Or what subtraction do you know about this number? What addition do you know about this number? Depending on the students, on their grade level. So just think about different questions you could ask to extend it. So here is a sample of the number 35 from a third grade classroom. And what's really cool about this math routine is that there is a lot of properties come out, and you can talk about the different properties. So here we could talk about the identity property. There was some commutative property going on. So it's just a really cool way. It just tends to bring out a lot of properties, and it's a natural way to talk about it. And there's models. So every student has the chance to feel successful with this, because even if a student does not know a lot, they can usually say, well, 35 plus 0 is 35. So every student has something that they can contribute. However, you can also get a lot more mathematical thinking. And these are third graders, and we're getting 15 times 2 plus 5. Some really cool equations out of this. Here's another sample from a third grade classroom, and this time it was with the number 18. And you might be thinking like, wow, the number 18, that's kind of a lower number, but look at all the math thinking that came out of this. The commutative property, and okay, this person was like, oh, I know it's an even number. So this person had a chance to be successful. Another student really wanted to figure out, what if they figured out what if the square root of 324 would equal 18. And this is how he explained that he solved it. So as I said, it's extending it. Kids who need to come in with just 10 plus 8 equals 18, and they can feel successful, somebody who just says it's a 2-digit number, they feel successful, yet we could also have some really cool thinking going on for kids that need an extension. Another thing that you can do with this number is you can just, start introducing fractions. What do you know about fractions? And get kind of the talk around fractions. With this one I did at home with my son. And I did probe because I was like, okay, he's been kind of starting to learn about decimals and what could you say about decimals that you would know about decimals to extend the number 75? And it was really cool, like the talk that came out of this. Like 75 is 3/4 of 100. And then it was just a lot of really cool decimal thinking um, came out of this. And yes, I had to prompt that a little bit, like, well, what do you know about decimals, and how could you make this number using decimals? But it there's just so much math conversation all around just a single number. And so, why I love the number of the day math routine. As I've mentioned, everyone has something they can contribute and they can feel successful with. And I like that this shows that thinking matters and it's not just about getting answers. Kids can just, you have to extend their thinking and ask questions like, well, how do you know? And the math understanding is deepened through discourse. Kids, if there is a wrong answer, kids can say, oh, well, I disagree, and explain why. And this is focusing on flexible thinking and also clear communication. And one of the best things about this math routine is that it's really fun for kids and for teachers. And it's short. It takes about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes a day I spend on this. Here are some tips. Small numbers, less than 100, are really good for this, even for upper grades, for 5th and 6th grade, because as I mentioned, small numbers, you can get a lot of multiplication, decimals. You can get a lot of rich math talk. I've found that if you go up to higher numbers, like if you did 472, it would tend to just turn into a lot more place value and not as rich talk with numbers and not as rich math conversation. So I suggest doing numbers less than 100. Also with kindergartners, younger kids, starting with 1, 2, 3, and going up to 20. It's really good. But for 3rd and 4th graders, introducing those unit fractions, talking about what they know about unit fractions. And then for 5th and 6th graders, putting decimals in there, putting larger fractions. So this is just a really fun activity to get kids thinking about math, talking about math, and just extending their thinking. And it's a fun way to do math in a classroom or at home with your own kids. Thanks.